Hey, it's Coach Taylor from SmarterTeamTraining.com. If you're watching the sidelines of an NFL game, you're probably going to get a chance to see a guy called a get-back coach, and most oftentimes that's a strength coach. And I get a chance to talk to a lot of the NFL guys for whatever reason. Just friends of mine growing up through college and in the college ranks, and they get a chance to get it, elevate themselves to the NFL. But one guy I got on the phone here right now is Buddy Morse. To be honest with you, I think I've talked to Buddy maybe 3 or 4 times on the phone in my entire career. I've interacted with him several times on email throughout my time here in the field, and I can always say he tells a great story. I've always enjoyed getting an opportunity to speak with him and learn from him, and to have him on the show, man, is a real honor. So, Buddy, I don't know if I have to give much more of an intro because I know you've done a lot of things for this field, from presenting to doing many interviews from the podcast standpoint and radio shows, etc. But we'll include your description for people to refresh their memory about what you've actually done in the field. And, again, it's a privilege to have you on the show, my man.
Robert, I appreciate the opportunity. Anytime I get to share knowledge or speak to somebody like yourself who can help me increase my knowledge and give me a chance to give back to the profession, I always look forward to it. I just did a podcast on Wednesday with Martin Bissinger. It was a tremendous honor for me because I've read his blog so many times, and I understand that he's trained with Dr. Bondarchuk and uses the Bondarchuk methodologies, which I have also employed in our training methodologies and programs. So it's great to talk to other people to see how they employ these methods and how they actually train, under the supervision of these individuals. So it's a great honor for me to be here again. This is my 35th year of doing this. I started at the University of Pittsburgh in 1980, hired right out of college by then head coach Jackie Sherrill. I stayed at Pitt till 1980, till 1990. My oldest daughter was placed on a liver transplant list at that time, so from 90 to 97, I actually was in the private sector, which I really started to hone and learn more about rehabilitation and the value of using what physical therapists do in actual training programs. In 97, I got a call back. By the grace of God, my daughter was doing great, and they asked me to come back to the University of Pittsburgh, so I went back. In 2001, I got a call from the Cleveland Browns, from Butch Davis. I went to the Cleveland Browns. Obviously, the NFL is the NFL. We lasted there for 4 years. I sat around for a year, then got a call from Turner Gill at the University of Buffalo. Went to the University of Buffalo for a whopping 6 months. Got a call again from University of Pittsburgh, and Dave Wannstedt asked to come back again, which, it's your hometown. So I went back where I started from. While at the University of Pittsburgh, I actually turned down Iowa State, the Washington Redskins, and the Green Bay Packers at the time. People always ask me why I did that. My youngest daughter, Claire, was going through Pitt's nursing school, obviously tuition waiver, so you're a parent first. Unfortunately, I became involved in one of the worst situations ever in college football under an egotistical athletic director who just really ruined Pitt football for a while, and eventually they got rid of him, but we were all let go. Sat around unemployed for over 2 years, went back to the University of Buffalo for 6 weeks. Then, by the grace of God, was called by Bruce Arians, who I had worked with at the Cleveland Browns and got to know when he was with the Steelers very well. He's like an adopted father to me. He called me and asked me to come to Arizona. My wife will tell you I ran out of Buffalo. I have to correct that, Robert. I sprinted out of Buffalo. I took one bag and filled it with some clothes, and that was it. I said, I'll see you, and have not gone back since. I live in the Valley of the Sun, in a paradise, and I work with some of the greatest athletes, and more importantly, some of the greatest people I've ever been around in my entire life. So, again, it's an honor and privilege to be here, and I thank you for that.
Hey, Coach, man, I know you've done, as you said, a ton of things in this field, and one thing when we get a chance to look at someone's bio or get a chance to read an article about them, I don't know if we ever get a chance to tap into where their passion for this field came from. I mean, you've had a lot of very unique and really cool opportunities in our field to work at a very high level with very unique individual or a niche group, if you want to call it that. But where did your passion for this field come from?
Here's how I all started, and before I get into that, I want to back up. We had a guest speaker during our bye week here at the Arizona Cardinals, and he was a guy from the Navy SEALs, and he's obviously a Navy SEAL. You're an elite athlete, as far as I'm concerned. You're not elite level. That you're asked to do some things that normal people just cannot even comprehend. But one of the things he said, what makes a person great or an elite, is tremendous curiosity. I've always been curious about training. I've always been curious about the heights that we can take the human body to as far as physical performance. My background as a track athlete, believe it or not, and I argue with Larry Fitzgerald about this every day, both of us being from the University of Pittsburgh. I actually ran a 10,400 meters. So my background is a power speed athlete. I became obsessed, or my passion grew, when I was running track for the University of Pittsburgh, and there was a guy named Harvey Glantz who I had a chance to meet last year because one of my assistant strength coaches on staff is Roger Kingdom, two-time Olympic gold medalist and former world record holder on high hurdles. Had Harvey Glantz come out here, and I had to give the guy a hug. I said, it's because of you that I started strength training myself. Because at the time, as a sprinter at the University of Pittsburgh, I kept hearing about this guy at Auburn who could bench press 350. His name was Harvey Glantz. So I put two and two together. And obviously, if I got stronger, I was going to get faster. And that's where my passion grew. I was very fortunate in 1980 when I was hired by Jackie Sherrill. There were no strength coaches in this country. There was a handful of them. That's it. So I was very fortunate to be on the cutting edge, to be in the beginning of the profession. Like I said, this is my 35th year, and I don't see myself retiring ever. We have a guy on staff named Coach Tom Moore, who is 74 years old, and the guy will never retire. I hope to be the next Coach Moore in the field of strength and conditioning. So that's where my passion grew from. Again, I've competed all my life as a competitive bodybuilder, though I understand you separate your bodybuilding training methodologies. To that, I developed a power speed athlete, because to develop a power speed athlete, we look at skill, we look at strength, we look at speed, we look at stamina or work capacity, and we look at suppleness. As a bodybuilder, it's just trash it, eat, recovery, and do it again. There's an actual plan that I have for my athletes that I have to take into effect all 5 effects of training. And when I talk about effects, those effects are the acute effect, the immediate effect, the cumulative effect, the delayed effect, and a residual effect. I have to plan and account for all of those. Understanding that training is a stress, Robert. The body, the stress of training to the human body is greater than the stress of a broken arm, because the stress of training is a global effect. It affects the cardiac, cardiopulmonary, detoxification, hormonal, metabolical, neuromuscular, and central nervous system, and I'll add one more system to that, and that is the immune system. All those systems are adversely affected by the stress of training. They do not all recover at the same time. So we have a saying here, do not overtrain the slowest system to adapt. Adaptation is a long-term process. In this country, I think the problem that we have is we stimulate, adapt. One thing I've learned from Dan Path, who living in Arizona, one of the greatest benefits I have is Dan Path, Stuart McMillan, John Gardina, and all those guys at Altus, or what was the World Athletic Center, are 20 minutes away, and Dan and Stuart have opened up an open door for me that I can go over any time. But Dan talks about stimulate, adapt, stabilize, then actualize. So that's where the basis or foundation of our program comes from. I'm always concerned with the types of loading our athletes must incur, and we account for everything because we've adapted Charlie Francis's vertical integration periodization concept to the sport of football. So when I talk about loading, I look at 5 different ways to load. Excessive, which is what we are in this country, too excessive, too overvolumized. Trainable load, which what you look at A.S. Philippin's chart, which is what we follow. He gives you those guidelines. Maintaining, so as Dr. Vladimir Ashurin says, you're either developing, maintaining, or restoring. Then you have restitution, recovery, and obviously you have a useless load. So we look at all those different factors when we program for our athletes, understanding that you're not immediately better after what you just did. So my curiosity is there every day. Every day, I'm one of the most fortunate people in the world. I'm one of 32 guys who works at the highest level of my profession. I work with some of the greatest athletes in the world. I'm in the number 1 entertainment industry in the world. I don't have to brush my teeth or shave if I don't want to every day, and I get to dress in sweats. How much better does it get? And now you add the fact that I live in Arizona with the sun every day. I don't have to put up with the crap that I had to put up with in Buffalo, New York. I got a smile on. I tell my wife every day, I'm on vacation. She goes, you going to work? I said, work? I don't work. I'm going on vacation again. So that's what has fueled my passion. And I love doing what I do. I love watching people get better. But the best part about my profession is I love learning. And if you don't have a passion for learning, you don't get smart by being dumb. You've got to read every day. If you would see my desk, when I do a PowerPoint presentation, the first slide I show is Albert Einstein's desk, and it's a mess. And the caption says, if a cluttered desk is a sign of a cluttered mind, then what is a sign of an empty desk? Obviously, an empty mind. I'll go through the cluttered area. People who have that pristine, clean desk, they bother me. because you're not thinking. Every day you have to think of ways to get your athletes better. Every day you have to think of evolving your system. When people ask me, do you have a philosophy? I don't have a philosophy. Philosophy are for philosophers. I'm not a philosopher. I have a system, and that system has evolved over many, many years and continues to evolve over many, many, many years. To me, the best coaches are those coaches that, number one, are Plan B coaches and can make adjustments in a heartbeat, because on a daily basis, training readiness is gonna change. And when I say training readiness, I'm talking about the maximum amount of stress that the body can occur or handle at any one given point in time, and that changes on a daily basis. So you better be a Plan B guy. You better be able to adjust by what your athletes are displaying to you. You just can't do, oh, it's written on paper, so this is what we're going to do. I think that's a mistake that people make, because they may not be ready for that. So it's up to you as a head physical preparation coach. And the real magic now becomes in how you make adjustments on training day. Use your heightened powers of observation and problem solving, which I think Dan Papp and Stuart McMillan, those guys are great at that, to make training optimal on the training day. So again, you got to be a guy that can make adjustments at any given point in time. I tell Roger, I tell my intern Anthony Paroli, if it don't look right, it don't fly right. If they start to look bad, shut it down. Same thing when I assign an exercise. We end at technical proficiency. If it starts to look bad, if they can't complete a rep with perfect technique, they're done. Shut it down. I don't chase big numbers. I chase optimal technical application, and every exercise is a skill, including the bench press, which most people forget about. And I look at the fact that the one commonality amongst all athletes is one thing: movement. I don't care how strong you get. If you can't move, you can't play a sport. So that has been the foundation. That has fueled my passion every day and why I study every day, because it is my job. That's what they pay me for, to find the most productive ways to train my athletes, knowing that all programs work. They only work for so long. Nothing works forever. You have to understand that.
When we get an NFL guy on the phone, or a football guy in general, I mean, you're going to have conversations about bench press, squatting, cleaning, sprinting, conditioning, even plays for that matter, depending on the strength coach and how much they feel like they're part of the team. But I think one aspect that's not talked about very much is as a strength coach, we get a chance to be with those athletes probably 80% of the time versus the 20% of the time that the sport coach gets a chance to be with them, whether it's in the NCAA scenario or even in the pro side. From what I'm my experiences, in my opinion, that type of thing. I mean, how much emphasis do you place on learning about each player, their background, their motivation, and their goals?
Well, I talk to every player, and we've interviewed every player, and start to understand their background of training. But I think the most important thing that we do is before every workout, we explain to our athletes what we're going to do, why we're going to do it, and the physiological response of what we're going to do. We also understand the residual or delayed effects. So I tell them, if I'm going to train you for a block of maximum effort strength, it's going to last me 30 days plus or minus 5 days. On the other hand, when we train for speed, true speed now, the residual effect of that workout is only going to last you 3 to 5 days, because from a neuromuscular synchronization standpoint and from a dynamic muscle activity standpoint, it is the highest with sprinting. One of the most overlooked components of good sprinting is coordination. So we explain to them residual effects. We explain to them when things will display to themselves, because we make them aware. Awareness creates cognition. Cognition creates motor learning. I don't have to me, the key to motor skill acquisition is not magic words or phrases, but programming activities that encourage what I'm going to call self-organization, allowing the body to organize itself and teach itself what you're asking display. I want them to display. So I don't have key phrases. I don't have motivation. To me, comes from within. But what has helped us tremendously here is explain to them, and the fact that we don't want a cookie-cutter program. I program based on position. I program based, because every position has different requirements. Obviously, the closer you get to the ball, the more strength dominant you are. The further you get away from the ball, the more speed dominant. Now, that doesn't mean my big guys don't run fast. And that doesn't mean my skill guys don't lift weights. I didn't say that. The volume of work is specific to the position. The exercises are more specific to the position. I take into account ages of service. In other words, there's programs from 5 years and below, and there's programs from 5 years and above. I also take into account the height of an athlete, which I think most people forget. If you've got a guy that's 6'7" and he's squatting, he has to incur a longer time under tension than a guy who's 5'8", so obviously his volume of work cannot be the same as a guy who's only 5'8". So we take into account, like I said, a lot of different things. We address people based on position. We address people based on years of service, but more importantly, we also base programming on the individual. So I have Carson Palmer, I have Drew Stanton, and I have Matt Barkley right now. I don't train all three quarterbacks the same. Their programs are completely different. Does that require more work and planning and timing on my part? Absolutely. But you know what? That's what they pay me to do. Do your job. Don't find an easy way to do things. Find the hard way. Like the guy from the Navy SEAL told us, we have a hard profession. There are no such thing as bad days. There are just hard days. So every day is a hard day. Don't always look for the easy way out. Look for the most beneficial way to help your athletes become better.
I know you've had a chance to work with a lot of guys at the college and pro level that have definitely achieved their own greatness type scenario. I mean, what's the most common trait that you see in successful athletes? I mean, we are commonly or regularly talking to our athletes. I think they grasp the concept of strength and conditioning and running and moving and even practice, but they might not understand necessarily what it's like to work at a high effort level or have good body language or to support a teammate. I mean, walk me through a little bit of what you've seen in successful athletes.
Here's what I see in successful athletes. Not only are they great at handling adversity, but they're even better at handling prosperity. If you can't handle prosperity, you're in a world of hurt. Second of all, these guys never get comfortable. They understand that if they get comfortable, they're going to lose their job. Because in this profession, I got my quarterback, I hear Carson Palmer flexing his bicep at me. Anyway, in this profession, they bring somebody in every year to take your job. So you're not here very long. It amazes me, the biggest mistake I think the NFL makes, and I'm going off track here, is they give us a 5-week dead zone before we go to camp. That defies logic. Whoever came up with that had no clue or no concern for the athlete from a physiological or physical standpoint, because it just predisposes them or sets them up to issues. The most sensitive time period, you're now telling me I cannot touch my athletes? This is one of the mistakes that, the CBA has brought about. So those athletes like a Larry Fitzgerald, like a Carson Palmer, these guys have survived the longest in this league, are dedicated to training. Because let's face it, the average lifespan in the NFL is 3 to 5 years. You'll have a lot of time off when you're unemployed. And that's going to happen real fast, because this is not a profession, Robert, where you're going to have 25 years, you're going to get dinner and a gold watch when you're done. They bring somebody in every week, every year to take your position, take your job. So the things that I see with my guys is their ability to handle not only adversity but prosperity, their work habits, their dedication to their craft, and their dedication to taking care of their bodies above and beyond what we tell our athletes. I only assign recovery methods during 3 times of the year. Number 1, during a competitive season, obviously we're the most beat up. 2, to restore autonomic function. And 3, during a block or period of recovery or restoration, which is built into training. The mistake people make is they use these advanced recovery methods too much. So when the body actually needs them, the effect diminishes. It's called tachyphylaxis in the medical community. The drug loses its intended effect. The recovery method loses its intended effect. Let the body do its job. Part of the body's job is to handle the adaptation process, the inflammatory response, the inflammatory process that occur from training. So it's these guys who go above and beyond and understand when to use the methods and have committed to the program. You can't be successful till you commit. They've committed to the process, and that's what makes them exceptional athletes. That's what helps them become successful. That's what helps them stay on this level for a long, long period of time, in my opinion.
When you're looking at a high school athlete that you were probably involved with recruiting-wise and their transition going from the high school environment to the college environment, and then again from the college athlete going to the pros, I mean, what particular aspects of that transitioning of demands, if you want to call it that, I don't really have a better term, but the demands that are involved with the high school, the college, and then the pro level have really been found to be helpful for the athletes as they elevate in their evolution of athletics.
Well, you say evolution, I say process of obtaining sports mastery. You got to understand the process of obtaining sports mastery is hard enough for the human body. Why would I try to introduce something that is even going to be more technically profound or introduce exercise in a weight room that demand a higher technical mastery, which is one of the reasons, again, as I talked to Martin Bissinger on Wednesday, why I don't prescribe Olympic lifting for my athletes. But the uniqueness is, from high school to college, is you're teaching young men how to work, because they really don't know how to work. In this country, we now suffer from what I call the musical chair syndrome. I'm 59 years old. When I play musical chairs, they played music, 30 kids, 29 chairs. You fought like hell for that last chair. Nowadays, because of our entitlement, you have 30 kids, you have 30 chairs, and the music stops, everybody gets a chair, and let's talk about your feelings and we're done. That ain't reality. That's not how the real world is going to treat them. So they have to learn. You have to teach them how to work. Going from college to the NFL, this now becomes a more mental game. It really does, because things happen so much faster, because this is the highest level of mastery of your sporting activity that you'll ever achieve. You're not going to go anywhere after this. So you better be able to master technically and tactically from those points, because everybody's going to be big, everybody's going to be strong, everybody's going to be fast. 2/3 of the human brain is dedicated to visual processing. A lot of times when a coach will tell me somebody's slow on the field, it's not that they're slow, it's just that their visual processing is a little longer or a little more delayed than other people who have been playing the game for a while, and their ability to respond to it with physical accuracy is delayed a little bit. It's amazing what happens with young athletes who come in as rookies from their first and second year of the improvement that they make. Now you get some guys who come in as rookies and right away, and that's just given. You can't coach that.
You said you've been in the field for 35 years now, and I commend you for that. That's an honor and a feat just to say that. You've been in any profession for that matter. I mean, being in this field in particular is incredible. I mean, as you've evolved or been in the field for a long time, what are some aspects of the field that you've seen develop? What do you see as the next upcoming kind of thing? And really, what has enhanced your program from potentially even the nutrition side of things, sports psychology, adding technology, et cetera?
The big thing you're going to see happen over the next couple of years is obviously data collection. As we become more concerned with how each athlete handles stress and its effect on the body, and we understand it's highly individualized, now you'll be able to understand what they can and cannot handle. What can my athletes do? What can't they do that can allow them to do what they have to do? I think data collection and sports science is going to become very, very, very important in the next couple of years. So if you don't have a good science base, you're in a world of hurt. Here's the three people that scare me. One guy, the guy that says I'm old-fashioned, because that's an excuse for being lazy. That's an excuse for not studying. And those people don't want to study because they're afraid they're going to find out what they've been doing is not correct. The second guy I fear is a guy that says, I don't know science, but I know how to train my athletes. How can you train your athletes if you don't know the effect from a physiological and physical and biomechanical standpoint that it's going to have on your athlete, or when it's going to display itself? How can you say that? Last but not least, the guy really scares me, the guy that says this is what I did when I played. When I played back in 1975, I sure the hell ain't doing what I did back in 1975. I think the profession continues to evolve in understanding that we're not strength and conditioning coaches. We're not even physical preparation coaches, as my good friend, one of the most smartest people I've ever met in my life, James Smith, has said. We're stress managers. How do we manage the stressors that our athletes must incur? Understanding that stress, recognized by the body, is everywhere. It just doesn't differentiate between stressors. So, I've got a 34-year-old quarterback who's in a weight room right now, whose wife is pregnant. He's already got 3 kids. He's coming off now. He's a year post-op ACL. So during his bye week, how do I train him? I have to be very, very smart in how his application of training and what he does. So, I'm looking at Carson right now, and as we talk, I'm actually training the guy through hand signals and standing in front of him watching him. But he understands that, this is a light and load week. This is a week of restoration and recovery for him, especially at his age. So we're not going to push very hard. But as an elite athlete, he understands that he still needs to train. He still needs to do something. He still needs to promote recovery through low-intensive work. And that's what we're doing this week with him. We're promoting recovery and restorative properties through low-intensive work, through circulatory response, and we're producing a tonic, or what I'm going to refer to as a restorative or refreshing effect on his central nervous system. And again, the loading he does, the volume of work he does, is supervised by me and is based, again, on what I know that my athlete can handle. So you got to be very smart nowadays, especially with science. You got to study. You cannot be in this profession without studying on a daily basis.
if I had an opportunity to come down there and watch you guys train or get a chance to do consulting, checking out the exercise programming, that type of thing, are there particular exercises that you avoid or encourage in your program, specifically working with football players?
All exercises are good. They're all tools. They're all general. Put them in your toolbox. Use them when they're needed. I don't prescribe Olympic lifting. We could spend the next 2 hours on the phone talking to you why I don't do it. I don't care if you do it. I'm not going to do it. I think too many coaches in this country, and I'm not the only person that says this, Hank Krakenoff, who's a great sprint coach from the Netherlands, in an interview on Elite Coaches Roundtable on optimal training for speed, says, and I quote, when he talks about the value of strength training, he says, that does not always mean Olympic lifting, which is good to increase power output, but I feel many strength coaches, especially with a weightlifting background, tend to exaggerate its importance and effectiveness. And he's not the only one that says that. Louis Simmons has said it. My good friend James Smith has said it. I think too many people who have a background in Olympic lifting have adopted those methods for football players. And again, I don't think they're beneficial, in my opinion. I think there is some benefit to them, but if you ever seen Charlie Francis's motor unit involvement chart, there's a lot easier methods to use to maximal effort sprints, which how many people actually do maximal effort sprints? How many people actually do acceleration work, which is what our game is, a sport of accelerations, repeat accelerations? How many people do explosive med ball throws? How many people do jumps or plyometrics? Those can take the place of Olympic lifting and not introduce any more technical mastery than what needs to be. But like I said, because the sport itself in achieving the process of mastery is difficult enough for the athlete.
I'm sure you've been in many huddles at the end of workouts, games, seasons, those types of things. If you had a motivational message to send to somebody that's just getting started in this field, or even somebody who has a little gray in their hair for that matter, and they need a little bit of a push just to buy into what they're doing to inspire greatness in themselves, I mean, what kind of message would you have for those individuals?
I think motivation is an inherent quality. You either are or you aren't. If you have to be motivated every day to do a job that you should have passion and tremendous love for, you shouldn't be in the profession. You have to ask yourself every day, why am I doing this? I know why I'm doing this. I love it. I understand it. We're in a bye week. I gave my assistants off. They're gone. Anthony went back to Pittsburgh. Roger took his wife somewhere. I'm still in my weight room. This is where I want to be. This is my passion. You can't be disappointed with the results that you don't get from the work you didn't do. I look at that phrase every day. And that's what motivates me to be the best strength coach and to outdo and outprogram and outthink everybody on my level, because I have to on a daily basis. Naturally competitive. No matter what I do, I got to be better than everybody else. I just don't go around self-marketing myself or bragging about it. My assistants that I bring in are always smarter than me, Robert, because they help me learn. Tommy Myslinski, Alan DeGennaro, Anthony Piroli, Mike Cadango. There's been so many of my assistants that I have brought in that are so much smarter than me, James Smith, but they help me learn.
Well, again, buddy, man, I know you're a busy guy, and I appreciate you taking some time here on your off week. Hopefully Carson there's getting after it pretty well, and I want to get you into the weight room with him too, my man. But if anybody had any questions about anything we discussed here, or maybe they just wanted to reach out to you as a mentor, or maybe they just had a genuine question to find out how they can help their athlete, and they wanted to reach out to you, I mean, how could they connect with you and find out what you have going on?
I don't give out my personal cell phone. I don't give out my office number. The question, and with all due respect to everybody out there, the question that drives me nuts is, or the comment is, I want to be an NFL strength coach. In all my jobs I've had, I never thought one time about being an NFL strength coach. That thought process never crossed my mind. The only thing that crossed my mind was doing the best job at the job that I had for the team and the athletes that I was responsible for. The fact that this came was great. If it never came, I wasn't going to lose any sleep over it. I've been very fortunate. But I never focused like some people out there just focus. I want to get to the NFL. That's my goal. Guess what? You're not going to get here. Because it's a very difficult level to get to. Obviously, you got to know somebody. I knew BA. But I never thought about it. Do the best you can at the job that you have now. If the opportunity comes, great. If it doesn't, just be the strength coach that you have the ability to be. That's one of the things that drive me nuts, because you have no idea how many emails or people call me and tell me or ask me that. So I'll give my email address. It's bmorris@cardinals.nfl.net. Understand that we're in the middle of the season, so, my time is limited. I got a ton of guys I'm responsible for, so, and I'm not a big technology guy. Everybody knows me, knows that. I have fits with the computer. I still have, I think my cell phone is still a cell phone, i3 or whatever it is. Maybe it's an i4. My wife has been yelling at me for years to get a new one, but I have trouble figuring out this one. So if it takes me a while to get back to you, understand that. But at some point in time, I will get back.
Again, buddy, man, I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you and have you on the show. It's definitely an honor and a privilege to add you to this project. We have a lot of incredible people we've had interviewed on here, and I'm definitely going to put you at the top of that list, my man. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you today, and hopefully this is a launch pad for us to do many more things down the road, my man.
Appreciate it, Robert. Thank you. I got the best quarterback in the NFL training right now, so I can get back to work.